hits and the stakes haunt you forever. This is the story of mine. The glow of my phone screen illuminated my face in the darkness as I stared at the final message. I know exactly what you look like, and I have your number. My hands trembled as I read those words, knowing that somewhere out there, a predator was watching, waiting. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how it all began on that fateful autumn evening in 2018. October had arrived with its usual chill, and campus life at Ohio State was winding down for the semester break. At 22, I found myself single and restless, scrolling through social media while my roommates talked about their weekend plans. That's when someone mentioned Bumble, the dating app that everyone seemed to be using these days. Why neat? I thought. What could possibly go wrong? It was around 9:30 p.m. on a Friday night when I finally downloaded the app. The setup process felt surreal, carefully curating 4 photos that would supposedly represent my entire personality. I chose a mix. One from our recent basketball game I played point guard for the university team, a casual shot from summer vacation, one with friends at a campus event, and a professional headshot my sister had taken. For my bio, I kept it simple. Fix 2, psychology major, love hiking and live music. Looking for genuine connections. I wasn't trying to be clever or witty, just honest. The swiping began immediately. Left, right, left. Right, a digital dance of shallow judgments and split-second decisions. I found myself being surprisingly selective, only swiping right on profiles that genuinely caught my attention. After burning through my daily limit of 50 swipes, I set the phone aside and tried to focus on studying. Hours passed. No meechies. No notifications. Nothing. My confidence began to waver. Had I been too picky? Were my photos not good enough? Just as I was about to call it a night and question my entire approach to dating, my phone buzzed. Congratulations! You have a new match. Her name was Isabella Rodriguez, and she was absolutely stunning. 4 carefully crafted photos told a story of adventure and beauty. One at what looked like a beach in Miami, another with friends at what appeared to be a rooftop party, a third showing her rock climbing, and the last one, a casual selfie that somehow managed to be both innocent and alluring. According to her profile, she was 21, studied marketing at Florida International University, and loved spontaneous and peace, adventures, and deep conversations. Everything about her seemed too good to be true. I crafted my opening message carefully. Hey Isabella, I noticed you're into rock climbing. I just started getting into it myself. Any recommendations for a complete beginner? Her response came faster than I expected. Hey gorgeous. Smiling face with smiling eyes? Oh wow, that's amazing. I love teaching people to climb. It's such a rush. The conversation flowed effortlessly. She was charming, flirtatious, and seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. We talked about our studies, our hobbies, our dreams. She mentioned she was visiting family in Columbus for the weekend. What were the odds? 20 minutes into our conversation, she dropped the bomb. You seem really cool, Dany. I'm actually pretty bored tonight. Want to hang out? I could show you some climbing techniques. Winking face. My heart raced. This was it, the kind of spontaneous adventure I'd been craving. When I hesitated, she sweetened the deal. I'm staying at my aunt's place in Westerville, and she's out of town. We could watch a movie, get to know each other better. She gave me her number without hesitation, and I waited exactly 3 minutes before texting her. I didn't want to seem too eager. When I sent the message, I noticed something that should have been my first red flag. It came through as a regular text message, not an iMessage. She wasn't using an iPhone, despite her polished photos suggesting otherwise. Hey, it's Dany from Bumble, I typed. Hey, cutie, Ready for our adventure? Face-blowing a kiss came the immediate reply, followed by an address. 1847 Ravenswood Drive, Westerville. Just come straight over, I'll be waiting. I plugged the address into my GPS. 15 minutes away, not bad at all. I told my roommate Jake I was heading out to meet someone, grabbed my keys, and headed into the night. Ravenswood Drive was located in one of those older residential areas where the houses were spaced far apart and the streetlights seemed dimmer than they should be. As I drove deeper into the cellar neighborhood, a creeping sense of unease began to settle in my stomach. The house at 1847 was a midst two-story colonial, painted dark blue with white trim. What immediately caught my attention were the two cars in the driveway, a black sedan and a white pickup truck. My phone buzzed. "I'm here," I texted. "Perfect. Come around to the back. The front door squeaks really loud and I don't want to wake the neighbors. Back door is unlocked." Smiling face with smiling eyes. I sat in my car for a moment, staring at the house. Something felt off, but I couldn't put my finger on what. The rational part of my brain was screaming warnings. But the excitement of meeting Isabella drowned out those concerns. As I walked around the side of the house, I noticed the property was larger than it appeared from the street. Tall oak trees created natural barriers between this house and the neighbors. And across the street was an undeveloped lot overgrown with vegetation. Privacy was definitely not an issue here. That's when I saw the window. A slight gap in the blinds of a side window caught my eye. Someone was peering out. But the moment I looked directly at it, the blinds snapped shut. My heart skipped a beat. "Hey, was that you at the window?" I texted Isabella. No response. I stood frozen beside the house, every instinct telling me to leave, but I'd come this far. And maybe I was just being paranoid. College had made me overly cautious about everything. Maybe this was just normal nervousness about meeting someone new. As I approached the backyard, I began to hear subtle sounds that made my skin crawl. The scraping voit sounded like a cha being moved across concrete. Muffled voices. Oh, was it just the wind? I couldn't be sure. The backyard was completely dark except for the faint glow coming from the house's rear sliding glass door. I pulled out my phone and texted again. "I'm at the back door." "Where are you?" The response came within seconds. "Come in." "I'm upstairs getting ready. Just come through the back door." I approached the sliding glass door and peered inside. The house was pitch black except for the blue glow of what appeared to be a television in another room. Not a single light was on anywhere. Standing at that back door, I felt like a character in a horror movie, the one who makes the deviously stupid decision that gets everyone killed. Every fiber of my being was screaming at me to run. But I'd invested so much time and energy into this encounter that part of me still wanted to believe it was legitimate. I decided to call Isabella's number for the first time. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then I heard something that made my blood run cold. A ringtone was coming from inside the house, directly behind the glass door. Someone was standing there, hidden in the darkness, watching me. But that wasn't the worst part. When I looked at my phone screen, I saw something that made my stomach drop. Text now audio call. Isabella had been using a fake phone number this entire time. I don't remember making the conscious decision to run. One moment I was standing at that door, paralyzed by fear and realization, and the next I was sprinting back around the house toward my car. I didn't look back, didn't check my phone, didn't slow down until I was safely locked inside my Honda Civic with the engine running. My hands shook as I put the car in drive and sped away from Ravenswood Drive. I didn't stop until I was back on the main road, surrounded by the comforting glow of streetlights and the occasional passing car. I waited until I was safely back in my dorm room before checking my phone. 18 new messages from Isabella's number were waiting for me. The first dozen were variations of the same theme. Where did you go? Why did you leave? Come back. I was just getting ready for you. Don't be scared. But the last 6 messages were different. They were calculated, menacing, and revealed the true nature of whoever had been luring me into that trap. I'm not actually a 21-year-old girl named Isabella, but I'm sure you figured that out by now. No laws were broken tonight, technically. Good luck proving anything happened. I know exactly what you look like now, Dany. I have your number, your school, your face. This was fun. Maybe we'll do it again sometime. Sweet dreams. I immediately blocked the number and reported the profile on Bumble, but when I searched for Isabella Rodriguez, the account had already been deleted. Whoever had orchestrated this elaborate caught-fishing scheme had vanished into the digital aether, leaving behind only questions and a profound sense violation. I filed a report with campus security and the local police, but there was little they could do. No actual crime had been committed, just an elaborate hoax that could have ended much worse than it did. The officer who took my statement told me I was lucky to have trusted my instincts when I did. For weeks afterward, I found myself looking over my shoulder, checking my phone obsessively for unknown numbers, and avoiding that part of Columbus entirely. The psychological impact of that night lingered far longer than I'd expected. I never used dating apps again after that night. The experience taught me that the digital world we live in has created new opportunities for predators to exploit our basic human desire for connection. Behind every perfect profile could be someone with malicious intent, and the anonymity of the internet makes it easier than ever for people to deceive, manipulate, and harm others. The person who created Isabella Rodriguez had clearly done this before. The profile was too perfect, the conversation too smooth, the trap too well constructed to be a first attempt. How many other young men had received that same address? How many had been brave enough or foolish enough to actually go inside? I still wonder sometimes what would have happened if I'd opened that back door. Would I have found one person waiting for me? Or several? Were they planning to rob me, assault me, or something worse? The fact that I'll never know the answer might be the most terrifying part of all. In our rush to connect with Buthas in an increasingly digital world, we often forget how vulnerable we make ourselves. That night in October taught me that sometimes the most dangerous predators are the ones who never show their true faces. They hide behind carefully crafted personas, exploit our loneliness, and use our own hopes and desires against us. I was lucky. I listened to my instincts when it mattered most, and I escaped a situation that could have ended tragically. But not everyone is so fortunate. The digital age has given us incredible tools for connection, but it's also created new hunting grounds for those who wish to do us harm. Trust your instincts. If something feels too good to be true, it probably is. And remember, behind every perfect dating profile could be someone whose intentions are far from perfect. The Isabella Rodriguez profile was just one of many fake accounts that vanish into the digital void after each attempted encounter. If you've had a similar experience, you're not alone. Trust your instincts and never put yourself in danger for the sake of a potential connection. The notification that changed everything arrived at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night I'll never forget. I'd been mindlessly scrolling through Bumble for weeks, not seriously, just killing time between Netflix episodes and pretending I had some semblance of a social life. At 28, I wasn't exactly desperate for romance, but the monotony of working from home had left me craving human interaction, even if it was just meaningless digital banter. That particular evening started like any other. 20-something swipes, a handful of matches, the usual collection of pickup lines that would make my mother cringe. But then she appeared. Her name was Sophia. 26 years old with striking auburn hair and eyes that seemed to pierce through the screen. She was the kind of beautiful that made you question whether the photos were real a solid 10 out of 10 who belonged on magazine covers, not dating apps. So when she messaged first, my whiskey-hazed brain could barely process it. "Hey, handsome winking face." 3 simple words that sent my heart racing faster than it had any right to. The conversation flowed like silk. Every response came quickly. Every joke landed perfectly. Maybe it was the bourbon talking, but I felt bold enough to style things in a more intimate direction. To my amazement, she matched my energy completely. Before I knew it, we'd exchanged numbers, and she was suggesting we meet that very night. "I know this sounds crazy," she texted, "but I'm feeling spontaneous. Want to hang out at Riverside Gardens first? It's this cute little park near my apartment. We could meet around 11:30? The timing was unusual. Who meets at a park past midnight on a Tuesday? But something about her confidence was intoxicating, and I found myself agreeing without hesitation. I spent the next hour pacing my apartment, checking my reflection, and watching the clock with an intensity that bordered on obsessive. At 11:15 a.m., I sent a quick confirmation text. Her response was immediate. "Can't wait to see you." 2 hearts. The drive to Riverside Gardens took 15 minutes through winding suburban streets. The park was smaller than I'd expected, more of a neighborhood pocket of green space tucked between rows of cookie-cutter houses. Ancient oak trees formed a natural canopy overhead, their branches creating dancing shadows under the sporadic streetlights. I parked near the entrance and walked toward the designated meeting spot, a small playground area with 2 swings and a slide that had seen better days. The place felt forgotten, like a childhood memory that had been left to decay. A single motion sensor light attached to a weathered restroom facility provided the only real illumination, casting eerie shadows that seemed to shift and breathe. At exactly 11:32 a.m., I texted her, "Here, by the swings." Silence. 11:35 a.m. Still nothing. 11:40 a.m. The knot in my stomach began to tighten. I settled onto one of the swings, the rusty chains creaking ominously with each gentle push. The sound echoed through the empty park, amplifying my growing anxiety. This was exactly the kind of scenario my friends had warned me about, meeting strangers from the internet in isolated locations. But Sophia had seemed so genuine, so normal. As the minutes crawled by, the park's atmosphere grew increasingly oppressive. The surrounding trees seemed to lean in closer, the branches reaching toward me like gnarled fingers. Not a single car had passed on the adjacent street since I'd arrived, and the silence was broken only by the distant hum of air conditioning units and the occasional creak of my swing. Then I heard it. A metallic clang from the direction of the restroom building, like someone had dropped something heavy, or maybe slammed the door. The sound reverberated through the stillness, sending ice through my veins. I stopped swinging and listened intently. The park had been empty when I arrived, I was certain of it. The restroom lights were off, and there were no other cars in the small parking area. My phone buzzed, and I nearly jumped out of my skin. A text from Sophia. "Just arrived. Come to the restroom building. I have something special planned for you, smiling face with horns." Every instinct in my body screamed danger. The message felt wrong, too forward, too convenient. And why would she want to meet by the restrooms instead of our agreed-upon location? Before I could respond, another text arrived. "I can see you on the swing. Come over here now." My blood turned to ice water. Slowly, I lifted my gaze toward the restroom building. In the dim glow of the motion sensor light, I could make out a figure standing just inside the entrance to the men's room. They were positioned so that only half their face was visible, but I could feel their eyes locked onto me with predatory intensity. The figure wasn't Sophia. It wasn't even a woman. Time seemed to freeze as our eyes met across the empty playground. The persona man, I realized with growing horror, made no attempt to hide. He simply stood there, watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read in the shadows. Calculating. Patient. Waiting. Every nerve in my body sparked with primal fear. This wasn't a dating mishap or a case of mistaken identity. This was something far worse. Moving as quietly as possible, I stood up from the swing and began backing away from the playground. The man's head turned slightly, tracking my movement, but he didn't emerge from his hiding spot. When I'd put about 50 feet between us, I broke into a run. The sprint back to my car felt like a marathon. My heart hammered against my ribs as I fumbled with my keys, expecting at any moment to feel a hand grab my shoulder. The parking lot had never seemed so vast, and my car had never felt so far away. I threw myself into the driver's seat and immediately hit the lock button. Only then did I dare to look back toward the park. The man was no longer by the restroom building. He was running sprinting directly toward my car. I've never turned a key so fast in my life. The engine roared to life, and I threw the car into reverse without even checking my mirrors. Gravel sprayed behind me as I backed out of the parking space and spun toward the exit. In my rearview mirror, I caught a glimpse of the man reaching the edge of the parking lot just as I pulled onto the street. He stood there for a moment, silhouetted against the park's dim lighting, before disappearing back into the shadows. I drove home in a daze, my hands shaking so badly I could barely grip the steering wheel. Once safely in my driveway, I sat in my car for nearly 20 minutes, trying to process what had just happened. That night changed me in ways I'm still discovering. I deleted every dating app on my phone and haven't looked back since. I told my sister about the experience a week later, but even now, 7 months later, I can't bring myself to share the full story with anyone else. I've been with my girlfriend Emma for 4 months. Now we met at a coffee shop, like people used to do before smartphones took over our lives. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd walked into that restroom building. Sometimes I'm grateful I'll never know. But I still have nightmares about that figure in the shadows, and I still check my locks twice before bed every night. Some matches are meant to stay unlit. The notification sound still haunts me 3 months later. It started when I matched with Sophia on Bumble. 26 years old, auburn hair, and a profile that was almost too simple, just 3 photos and a bio that read, "Seeking genuine connections only." We exchanged messages for nearly a week, our conversations flowing effortlessly from favorite books to childhood memories. Then, on a rain-soaked Tuesday night in March 2025, she sent the message that changed everything. My place? It's quiet out here in Millbrook Valley, perfect for getting to know each other. The GPS led me down winding country roads until I reached 47 Oakwood Lane, a Victorian house that seemed to lean into the darkness itself. No lights anywhere except for a single porch lamp that flickered like a dying heartbeat. Something felt wrong the moment I parked. The front door stood ajar, revealing nothing but an impenetrable black void beyond. I should have left then. Instead, I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The smell hit me immediately, decay mixed with decades of abandonment, as if the house itself was rotting from within. The floorboards groaned under my feet, and somewhere in the distance, I could hear what sounded like breathing that wasn't my own. That's when I saw her. Sophia stood motionless at the far end of the hallway, her silhouette barely visible in the dim light filtering through grimy windows. She was exactly as beautiful as her photos, but something was terribly wrong. Her head tilted slowly to one side, and when she spoke, her voice carried the weight of the grave. "You're not real," she whispered, the words seeming to echo from somewhere deep inside the house's bones. My phone buzzed against my chest, a new message. With trembling fingers, I looked at the screen. "Hey, you seem amazing. Want to meet up tonight?" I'm thinking somewhere cozy, smiling face with smiling eyes, Sophia. When I looked up, the hallway was empty. I bolted for the door, my heart hammering against my ribs, but my car wouldn't start. The engine wouldn't even turn over. I sat there for what felt like hours, frantically trying to call for help, but there was no signal. Eventually, I walked 5 miles to the nearest gas station, where the night clerk let me use their phone to call the police. Detective Martinez arrived an hour later, and what he told me still makes my blood run cold. "Son, nobody's lived in that house for 8 years. Not since the incident." The incident, he explained, involved a 25-year-old woman named Sophia Chen, who had been found dead in that very hallway in 2017. She'd been meeting someone from a dating app. They never caught the killer. As I write this, I keep thinking about that final moment in the hallway. Sophia's ghost wasn't trying to harm me, she was trying to save me. Because somewhere out there, her killer is still swiping right, still setting up dates, still hunting. And I have the terrible feeling that I wasn't the first person to receive that invitation to 47 Oakwood Lane.